I'm glad you like the music. Hero, thanks for that information. I agree. As far as I know from those Partagas Lusitaneous. Chicago Card Guy, those cigars look great. Partagas Lusitaneous, they absolutely do, and they absolutely were. And that's why I like taking the photos. You know, you can see me smoking the cigar and all that, but you really don't get a good feel for what exactly I'm looking at and I'm smoking and I'm dealing with. The way the cigars look, you know, you can't feel them, you can't taste them. I gotta give all of that to you. One thing I can give you directly is the way they look, as much as I can anyway, from my little camera. So that's why I do that. I enjoy taking the photos. Like I said, for anybody out there, photography is fun, man. I'm not a big photographer or anything, but it gets me really fucking close to my cigars. You know, when you're in there and you're zooming in and trying to find an angle and taking a macro shot and trying to get, you know, cover and lighting and trying to get a good shadow, and you start seeing things that you just don't otherwise recognize. Even if you start looking at your cigars, you know, it's just something that puts your mind in a certain place. And you start, you know, for instance, first opening the box of cigars, these, I noticed that they were very nice and dark. They were very nice and oily. What I didn't notice is just how awesome the wrappers really looked until I started taking photos and I started seeing how really, you know, the toothiness of them, which is a little odd for Cuban cigars, you know. It's a little something. They're doing something I've been noticing. Tobacco's been getting darker. Tobacco's been getting a little more toothy, you know. So I start noticing certain things. Plume, you start noticing plume on certain cigars that you wouldn't. It's very... Plume is one of those things where you almost have to stare at the cigar but not look at it to really see it, if that makes any sense. It's almost like very tiny crystalline fibers that just, you know, they dust the surface of the wrapper. Sometimes there could be more, or sometimes, usually there's just a, you know, little bit. You turn the cigar very slowly in the light, and sometimes they'll catch the light and kind of sparkle. Very, very cool stuff. Which takes me to another comment that I don't have. We'll do it in the Cohiba episode about plume. I want to talk about that. Okay, here's a good one. Hi Joe, great vids. Max Vegas. I was just wondering if stacking your humidor with various types of cigars without packets, I'm assuming he means cellophane, changes the flavors in the cigars. Well, without packets. I'm assuming he means cellophane, because obviously you need a humidity source in there. If you don't have Boveda packs and you use a different humidity source, as long as it works, fine. You know, that's not going to be a problem. So I'm assuming that you're talking about cellophane. Now, yes, it can, especially over time. We need to get, and after I get a few more of these episodes up, and I keep saying it every time, if you guys did a thing and took every time I said it's coming, and made a video out of it, it would be like 1,000 different ways of saying it's coming, don't worry. We got to get to our aging episode. However, since we didn't do it yet, I'll say this. In that episode, I talk about mingling and the biggest parts of aging and how cigars age. Now, two things happen. One has to do with chemical reactions. The chemicals the cigars release that stay in the humidor unless you open the humidor and let it breathe. You know, this is what we were talking about in our other viewer comments. I think it was with the Lusitaneous, about somebody with breathing cigars. Anyway, that's one part of it. The other big part of it is the mingling or transition of oils throughout the cigars. Not only throughout the cigars, but from cigar to cigar. When a cigar is rolled up, this is so good right now. I just do not want it to go out. It is so fucking good, and it's a little wet now. When a cigar is rolled up, and you have all your filler and your wrapper, and I talked a little bit about this too, so I'll make it fast. All of those leaves have oils. It takes time for those oils to all exchange and interact with each other and mingle with each other and oils from the filler leaf to get to the binder, binder to the wrapper, filler to the wrapper, wrapper to the filler, all back and forth. Oils go through that cigar, creating balance, creating consistency. Now, those oils also transfer from cigar to cigar. So over time, if you have a humidor with like 100 different cigars in it, just like, you know, singles of every different stick, yeah, it can severely mess up the consistency and the overall flavor in the end of your cigars. Definitely. Short term, if you have a humidor that you smoke from every day and you pick one and throw one in, pick one, throw one in, and you're always rotating and everything, I don't know. Unless you're really orthodox, not so much of a big deal. Oils take a good long time to mingle, to really mingle with each other. One thing that will be lost very quickly is aroma, the specific aroma of each individual cigar. Now, I'm not talking the smell of the cigar when you light it. That's still going to be fine. I'm talking about how a blend smells just as is, like when I opened the box of Trinidad's that I keep pointing to that's no longer here. Had to bring it upstairs. Way too fucking hot downstairs. Don't want to risk it down here. When you have your cigars and you have a box of whatever it is and you open that box, you get a really good smell of what that blend smells like, what that blend's aroma, specific aroma is like. When you take 2 or 3 cigars from, like say, a dozen different brands and stuff them all in the same humidor, in a very short matter of time, you get a single aroma, the aroma of all those different cigars. Now, some people like to mingle their favorite brands, you know, 2 or 3 different brands in a humidor with dividers. That's cool. There's all different ways to do it. There is no, you know, there is a right way as far as aging cigars goes, but if you love Partagas and you love, you know, Gloria Cubana, and you don't mind sticking a divider there and putting Lusitaneous here and Metal de Oro 2s here and letting the aroma just kind of, you know, do its thing over time, hey, whatever. I'm not telling you not to, but, you know. So, as far as answering your question goes, yes. If you're going to buy a bunch of different Cuban singles from online vendors or whatever you're planning to do, and they don't have cellophane, and you start sticking them all in the same humidor, yeah, over time, it's going to, you know, the first thing, like I said, that'll be lost is the individual aromas of the cigars. And then over time, you know, they'll start to taste different than they should. You know, maybe not always bad. I don't know about ruining the cigar. You know, like you said, will it ruin my cigar? It's partially subjective, you know. Some of the cigars may acquire some kind of flavor that you like more. I've heard of this, you know. But what you want to do, technically what you want to do, is store your cigars in their boxes. You know, temperature control is very important, and a desktop humidor just doesn't offer that. So you're going to need a cabinet or a wine cooler or something. Even if you just buy a wine fridge, thermoelectric wine fridge, and you don't want to go through the whole nonsense of beads and drawers or anything, you know, you can take it and turn it on and then take your boxes of cigars in Boveda bags with packets and shove them all in there. At least you'll have temperature control. But the main story is keeping each bundle of cigars in their own particular environment so they can age properly and so they don't mix oils and aromas with every other cigar in there. So I hope that basically answers your question. So our cigar now just went out. I'm going to give it a little bit of a kickstart here and see if I can get anything else out of this nub. Whew, it's a lip burner, guys. I'm just about done with this. Getting very heavy and tarry now. You know, this was a fantastic cigar. Absolutely fantastic. Our last third was extremely different from the rest of the cigar. Really surprising. Really surprising. It almost has some flavors that are reminiscent of a Bolivar. You know, it's quite strong, and yeah, that's what it is. It has that deep twang, that meaty, salty flavor. You know, it's really got some flavors that are somewhat consistent with a Bolivar. But the first 2/3 of the cigar, obviously nothing like a Bolivar at all. So you had a really, really, really intense change up here with the last third. So I'm trying to get every little drop I can out of this thing. You know it's a fucking good cigar. At this point, I would just put it down and say I can't anymore, but I mean, I just want one more. One more. The flavor is unbelievable. Really meaty, salty, spicy, leathery, aged oak, stuff like that. Completely different from the first part of our cigar and the second. I mean, every part, this cigar was really complex, really complex. I'm not going to give it a 1. I'm not going to say it's like the ultimate complex cigar, but definitely a 0.75 in that area. You have to smoke one to see. And like I said before, when the second third went into the third, I mean, the ash didn't fall off. It wasn't about heat. At that time, the ash stayed, and one draw I took, it was still really kind of mellow, deepening up, getting there, and then the next draw I hit, bang, the twang came out, the salt, the spice. It's like there's a piece of Ligero back there that as soon as the cherry got there and it lit up, boom, I could just taste the entire difference. Really impressive, really impressive. That's it. So that's it. That's our final third. Let's wrap it up, give it a final rating, and we will come back in a little bit with the Cohiba Siglo VI and some more viewer comments. We have a little bit to talk about as far as the Siglo line. That should be interesting. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's wrap it up. And there it is, another one for the books. As you can see, we got some really, really nice long ashes there. Really good construction. Really good construction for a Lancero, man. Trouble-free. Appearance, 1. Beautiful cigar. Dark, rich, oily, a little toothy. Very, very nice. Burn, 0.75. I did have a little bit of an issue halfway through the cigar. Started to canoe a little bit, and I had to fix it up just a touch. But just a touch. That's all. Construction, 1, because the draw was absolutely flawless. Flawless draw. And I contribute the small burn problem that happened there to some excess humidity. Probably from me slobbering all over the thing. Pre-draw flavor, 0.75. Very interesting. A good amount of flavor. Had some of those strange fruity notes. And it made it even more interesting once the cigar was lit, because it was so far and different from what you got on the pre-draw that it just right away said this is going to be a cigar with some complexity and some interesting things going on. And it was. Overall flavor, 1.75. The best way I can describe this cigar is like smoking 2 different cigars back to back. It really was. I haven't had this happen to me in a while. It was just really relaxing, mellow, really nice vegetal flavors throughout the beginning, some kind of wheat, a little very subtle sweet flavors, a little spice. Very mellow, very elegant blend. Then all of a sudden you get to the last third and bang, it opens up, salt, twang, all of that. I even said it was similar in some ways to the flavor of a Bolivar. Really, really impressive right there with the flavor. Aroma, stunning aroma. Flat 1. Very, very, very nice aroma. Again, elegant, rich, full of that great musky Cuban flavor, floral notes, sweet notes. A lot of sweetness in the aroma, even though the cigar wasn't really of a sweet profile. Balance, 1. Excellent all the way through the cigar. Started out, I would say, mild medium, then picked up medium, and then got medium full toward the end. So strength really rode very, very nicely, level, and on an incline all the way through the cigar. And complexity, 0.75. I already mentioned why, because the flavors were just really changing in so many different ways, at so many different points. It was just a very interesting cigar to smoke, and very relaxing at the same time. I like this cigar a lot. I gave it a straight 9.0. I think it's exceptional. I think that Trinidad is one of these newer niche brands that came out in the late 90s, at least for the public anyway. But it's a little different in the fact that it was created back in 1969, so it was around for a while. You may or may not be a fan, but I really think as far as history goes, no humidor is complete with at least having the Fundadores present, because it is a spectacular cigar with a very cool story behind it. And not only that, it's a fucking wonderful cigar to smoke. 9.0, and that's our final rating. I hope you liked this episode. I had a blast smoking this cigar. I'm excited and anticipating the next cigar, which is coming very soon, the Cohiba Siglo VI, a cigar that many claim to be king of the Cubans. Very, very good cigar, and it'll be a lot of fun rating one on our show right here. So, stay tuned for that, and don't forget, we'll have a little comparison at the end of that episode of the differences between each of these two cigars that people seem to be constantly saying one is better than the other, and which one should I smoke. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of that in our own little way. And we'll also do some more viewer emails and the history of the Linea 1492. It'll be a lot of fun. Don't forget to come back. But even if you don't, no matter what you do, keep on smoking. Say goodnight, Max.